Welcome to Progress in San Diego, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. I'm your host, Walter Davis. And with me this evening, I have the pleasure to have David Springer, a chartered financial consultant on the end. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
And I also have Jetsy Lipscomb, the founder of IRA Solutions Incorporated, a registered investment advisory firm. And welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So, with the trouble that everyone is having in terms of investments and retirement and insurance, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the audience that have a great deal of questions regarding some of the smart things they can do with their money in the current market.
Absolutely, and in fact, we ask ourselves, why are we in this situation to begin with? Well, a lot of different reasons recently, but it all goes down to a law that was passed in 1974. In fact, I'll click. It's called ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act in 1974. The reason it came into being was because of what happened to the Studebaker Corporation. Remember Studebaker cars? Well, when they file a bankruptcy, all of their employees had their pensions in jeopardy. So the government acted to regulate the pension industry more, and as a consequence of that, the birth of the 401k market came into being. And in the financial planning industry, we're talking about defined benefit plans versus defined contribution plans. It's real fancy language basically to say a pension is something that your employer is guaranteeing you. It's a defined benefit versus your 401k or 457, 403b. It's a defined contribution plan. You're putting the money into the plan. And so it's defined what you can contribute, what you can't. Long story short, Mom and Dad, Joe Public America, all of a sudden had to take responsibility for the retirement. Now, Walter, in your experience, do we teach our children growing up through elementary school and high school a lot about money?
No, we don't.
No. I mean, unfortunately, we don't teach most people even how to balance a checkbook. And so then they get into the workforce, and they're just trying to earn a living. They're trying to provide for their families, and now they're required or thought to, okay, you got to make sure you invest for your retirement. Well, you have to do that, right? You know you have to do this. But they don't really know. And so to that end, I believe that we tell a monstrous lie to the consumer every single day. You turn on television, finance shows, constantly talking about investments, this, that, or whatever. We tell people to invest for retirement all the time.
Let's stop for a second, though. We need to identify you,
okay,
who you are, and so the audience knows who's talking to them. Tell them briefly what your background is.
Real quick background, graduated from West Point in 1998. I was injured in 1999 and was medically separated from the service in 2000. Trying to provide for a family and business and everything else, I became involved with the auto industry, car business. I actually became a finance manager here in San Diego and simultaneously got into financial services. I was brought up by a broker-dealer that was preaching the same thing as everybody else. Oh, you got a dollar cost average, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, constantly trying to promote mutual funds to the consumer. And somewhere around 2004, 2005, it occurred to me that most people weren't investors. So if I say, Walter, invest for retirement. Well, you got to invest for retirement. If you're not an investor, how can you? And so I've developed a philosophy around the fact that when we tell people invest for retirement, it's misleading. It's a lie because they're not investors.
Let's hold on that point. And David, I need to bring you in here.
Okay.
And can you identify yourself? Who are you?
Yeah, my name is David Springer. I started in saving and investing when I was very young. I started my first savings account. It was really important to me that I always had money, and it gave me a sense of power and a sense of security. And so what I wanted to do is I started my career off. I opened my first stock brokerage account at 18, and I was going in there asking very, very pointed questions to my broker, and he says, you know, if you're so interested, why don't you come intern here for a couple of years and see where we can go from there. So that's what I did, and went to college at the same time. And I learned a lot about the business. I worked at a really large brokerage firm. It was a smaller office, but a nationally recognized name. And like Jesse, I was told to push specific products. They said, look, this is what people should have, and this is what they should, this is what they should be buying. And I just didn't agree. So I spent many years after that learning. I got my CHFC from a well-recognized college, which is a financial designation. And right now what I do is I work internally. I work with agents like Jesse all around the country that have very similar situations. I do a lot of case design, and we actually make sure that the right product or the right solution is there for the client.
Well, very good. I just want to make sure our audience knew, who's talking to them. And I know you were very enthusiastic about your program, and I've looked at you, and I really have a lot of respect for your outlook.
Same with David. I mean, he's providing a tremendous amount of support. The difference between an advisor who knows what he's doing and an advisor who knows what he's doing and being successful is a function of that advisor's ability to get in front of clients. You might have the best thing in the world, but if you can't get in front of people to project that message, nothing ever gets done. And Dave's been real instrumental in helping me grow my business, helping me develop various marketing strategies, and honing my philosophy to be more applicable to the vast majority of Americans out there.
Now, you said something very interesting a couple of minutes ago. You said that we tell people lies, or we tell our kids lies when we're growing them up, and that we're not investors, something of that nature. I want to paraphrase you.
Maybe I'm looking too far into it, Walter, but bottom line, I've got a degree in German and Spanish from the Academy. I take a very analytical approach to languages and words. If you say invest for retirement, I'm telling you that you need to do something that I assume that you're already prepared to do. I'm assuming you're an investor. But now ask yourself, are you? When was the last time that most people went and looked in the newspaper and evaluated a stock or researched it online and bought an individual stock or an individual mutual fund or an individual whatever? Are there people that do it? Of course. But most people, you go to your job and you work, you put in 40 hours plus a week, and you're trying just to earn for your family. When it comes to your retirement plan, your 401k, you go option A, B, or C. You don't really know what you're investing in. You don't really know where your money's going. So the first part of that, understanding that lie, is understanding whether or not somebody's an investor. Well, what does investing require? You got to be involved. You got to have experience in education and evaluating risk. The easiest way to look at that is if the three of us were going to go in together and buy a piece of real estate to rent it out. We'd have an appraisal done. We would look at what rents in the area we're doing. We would maybe do a projection of appreciation in the next couple of years, and certainly we would be involved. And if you're unwilling to be involved, because all these other things, education, experience, everything else, that can come with time. But if you don't want to be hands-on, I think really what you're trying to do, what most people are trying to do, is they're just trying to save for retirement. They're trying to develop a nest egg.
I think it comes back to the whole thing about the stock market will always prevail. Just put your money in the stock market and it'll be there when you want it. And as most people have seen, their 401ks have recently become 201ks, and it's just not everybody's suited to be in the stock market, and now we're realizing
we talk about suitability a lot in this industry. Here's an easy way of suitability. If you can't sleep at night because you're worried about how your money's allocated in your retirement accounts, you probably shouldn't be in variable products like mutual funds and everything else. When it comes to saving for retirement, what I found that most people are looking for are safety of principal, some growth opportunities with a little bit of protection there, and essentially creating their own nest egg. Really, in 1974, ERISA started taking away pensions, all people really want are a private pension. They want to be able to have the security and peace of mind that when they retire, they've got guaranteed income coming in no matter what.
What is ERISA?
Going back, that was the employee. We'll go back here to. It was the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974.
Got it. I want to make sure that the audience knows that.
Yeah. What it was essentially designed to do was to protect the people in these large companies that had essentially been saving for retirement, whether it be a direct salary reduction or a portion of their quote-unquote salary or benefits package that was placed into an account.
And back then, they just had, remember, it was go to school, get good grades, go to school, and get a safe, secure job with benefits. And those benefits were typically pensions where you did, 25 years got a gold watch, at 30 years got this retirement pension,
and you were set for life.
Unfortunately, your retirement life was only about 5 years. Going back to the 1950s and 60s. Going to the 70s and 80s, people started living longer. And with that, the major corporations had serious liabilities in providing for these pensions for people who are no longer on the payrolls. So, unfortunately, with the advent of 401ks, people had to take much more responsibility of their own retirement, but they weren't investors. So it's kind of a hard balance there.
So you said something very interesting. You said your 401k becomes a 201k. Now, I want to make sure people know there's no such thing as a 201k.
There is no 201k.
What you're saying is that it's cut in half.
It's cut in half.
You lose what you put into it.
It's cut in half. And that's the problem. And I have a unique advantage because I work with so many brokers, and I do talk with a lot of clients directly on the phone. And I hear the story over and over. I have to stay at work. I plan to retire this year. The stock market is not going to let me do what I want to do. And so it's really heart-wrenching because, I hear it from teachers mostly. They have, they just don't have enough money to retire at this point. So they have to work another 2 or 3 years, and I hear it every day, Walter. They say, I'm tired. I don't want to work anymore. But unfortunately, I'm in a situation right now that it doesn't allow me to retire, so I have to work a couple more years.
In fact, Walter, probably the worst thing, other than retiring with no retirement plan at all, is losing half of it once you're there. You're 59 years old, you're retiring next year, and the market crashes and you lose half. Panic time. And that happened to so many people, but it doesn't have to happen to people. It doesn't have to. You don't have to risk your nest egg. There are a lot of ways where you can protect your assets and be guaranteed a retirement income that's comfortable.
Well, we're down to our last 15 or so minutes. I want to make sure that you can get through this because you're going to tell us about some of the instruments that are available to assuage some of those risks, are you not?
Yeah, and in fact, just so everybody knows, I don't hate investing. I love investing. If you become an investor, the best investment in the world is owning your own small business. If you want to study the real estate market and do that, great. Even the stock market's fine, but for our purpose here and my philosophy is if you're a saver, that's okay. There's plenty of ways to save your money for retirement. So in this slide, we're talking about the two different worlds of retirement. You've got the world of potential and the world of protection. And without going into too much, the world of protection is all about safety. It's all about the various products that are there. They're all safe. You're never going to lose any money in them. They're going to give you low rates of return,